Morning to all. Today's class is a renal function test. So already we are given this question to last internal examination. So you know very well how you are given answer. That is very worst answer. Okay. So you can compare your answer. Today's class you can listen. You can compare your answers with you. I think. So it is very important question. Again and again, I am telling you, it is very important question for short answer. Sometimes they will ask you for essay question also. So today's topic is renal function test. So this renal function test. So renal is the here I need to tell you one thing. There is one student. He mentioned in that renal function test. He mentioned about liver. I don't know. I think he don't know what is renal, what is liver. Okay, just to remember. Renal means kidney. Renal means kidney function test. So it is very important. Why? Because if the organ is failure 70%, then only we will get symptoms. After the 70% of the damage of the kidney, then only we will get symptoms. Okay, so kidney disease is the silent killer. Especially we see these kidney failures mostly in the chronic alcoholics. Okay. So anatomy, physiology, you know very well what is the shape. This is the kidney, bean-shaped kidneys. Location posterior abdomen, and color is reddish brown. Functions are different functions: filter and excrete. So here today's topic is renal function test. So these renal function tests, that is mainly depending on the filtration, excretion, and reabsorption. Okay, reabsorption of the blood in the kidneys. So how blood is supplied to the kidney? So through the abdominal aorta, that gives a two branches: left renal artery, right renal artery. Through this oxygenated blood that enters into the kidney. From there, after utilizing that deoxygenated blood that comes from the kidneys to the renal vein, left renal vein and right renal vein. Those are continuous with the inferior vena cava. Okay, this is the blood supply to the kidney. Cross section of the kidney. So during the cross section, what it is containing kidney? Mainly that is containing outer cortex and inner medulla. Outer cortex and inner medulla. So outer cortex extends into the inner medulla, and it is triangular shape. It is a triangular shape. So in that outer cortex and inner medulla, you can see clearly how what it is containing. It is containing a million of nephron. So it is containing a nephron. How it is extend from the cortex to medulla, you can see. So what is nephron? Nephron is a structural of the function of the kidney. Okay, main function of the kidney, that is mainly depending on these nephrons. So about 1 million of the nephrons, those are present in the kidney. 1 million of the nephrons, those are present in the kidney. So in that nephron, in that structure, it is containing different parts. You know, that is glomerular part, Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, ascending and descending loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, and collecting duct. This is the structure of nephron. So here, what is the function of the nephron? What is the function of the nephron? So here, the main function of the nephron is, one is filtration, second one is reabsorption, third one is secretion. So what is filtration? What is reabsorption? and what is secretion. So here, what is filtration? Whatever blood that is reached to the glomerular part, here that the substances, there are some substances, those are filtered into the Bowman's capsule. Those are filters into the Bowman's capsule. Remaining amount that is reached to the efferent arteriole. Okay, reached to the efferent arteriole. So whatever amount that is filtered, that is filtered into the Bowman's capsule. There are different different things of the salts: sodium, potassium chloride, glucose, urea, creatinine. These are all substances. Those are filtered in the Bowman's capsule. Then these filtered substances are reach to the proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, and finally reach to the collecting duct. Then from the collecting duct, that reach to the urinary bladder. Okay. So here, before reach to the collecting duct, these are all these substances. Before reaching to the collecting duct, there are some amount of the substances, those are reabsorbed, or there are some amount of the substances which are not filtered in the kidney. Those are transfers to the efferent arteriole. Then these substances, some amount, those are secreted into the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so reabsorption means the substances, those are reabsorbed from the proximal convoluted tubule to the capillaries, blood capillaries. Okay, that is called reabsorption. Secretion means that opposite direction. Secretion means substances, those are secreted from the capillaries to the distal convoluted tubule. So that is the difference of the reabsorption and the secretion. So after filtration, those substances, those are finally enters into the urine. Okay. So what is urine composition? Normally, it is containing 98% water. Only 4% those are containing solids: urea, uric acid, creatinine, sodium, potassium, chloride, glucose. These are all substances. Okay. So here, urine, that the urinary output of the water, that is 1500 to 1800 ml per 24 hours. In one day, 1500 ml to 1800 ml, that is filtered. In that filtered water, what it is containing? 30 to 70 grams of the solids per 24 hours, that is filtered. 30 to 70 grams of the solids per 24 hours, that is filtered. So in that 30 to 70 grams of the solids, those are again two types: organic solids, inorganic solids. So organic constituents, inorganic constituents. Already you did these experiments also. So inorganic constituents are sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, phosphates. These are all inorganic constituents. What are organic constituents? Organic constituents are two types: normal organic constituents, abnormal organic constituents. Normal organic constituents are NPL, non-protein nitrogen substances, you know, urea, uric acid, creatinine. These are all normal organic constituents. Abnormal organic constituents. What are those abnormal organic? We know that those experiments we did for blood in the protein, blood in the urine, protein in the urine, glucose in the urine, ketone bodies in the urine, bile salts in the urine, bile pigments in the urine. These are all abnormal constituents. Okay, so this is the different solids, those are present in the urine. What are the kidney function tests? So this is the question we are given in the last examination. You can compare your answer sheets, how you were given this answer. So kidney function test, basically that is required 4 different tests. One is we are estimating the glomerular function. One is glomerular function. Next one is tubular function. Next one is tubular function. Third one is different biochemical blood parameters. Okay, blood biochemistry: urea, uric acid, creatinine, albumin, protein. These are all we are estimating in the blood samples. Next one, fourth one is routine and bacteriological examination in the urine. So these are all we will discuss in this topic. First one is glomerular function test. So glomerular function test. So here you can see this image. This is the glomerular part that is fixed in the Bowman's capsule. So here in the glomerular part, that the filtration of the different substances that is taking place, and those filtered into the Bowman's capsule into the proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, so here this is filtration of the different substances that is mainly depends on the one is either flow of the blood, second one is this function of the glomerular, So here these glomerular part capillaries, these are completely covered by the specialized cells. What are those? Podocytes. Podocytes are having a specialized filtration function. These are filtered different substances. If it is normally working, these podocytes, normally that filtration that is taking place. If there is any abnormality in the podocytes, whether the glomerular filtration is that may be increased or decreased. So mainly we are estimating that whether this glomerular podocytes or glomerular part, whether it is filtering properly or not, that is mainly we are estimating with the using of glomerular filtration rate. This is we will determine. So this glomerular filtration rate that is having a different categories. What are those? G1, G2, G3A, G3B, G4, G5. Nobody mentioned about this category. Okay. So normal range is GFR normal range is 90 to 120 ml per minute per 1.73 meter square of the body surface. Okay. So 90 to 120 ml per minute. So if it is greater than 90, that is normal. If it is greater than 120, that is abnormal, high value. If it is less than 90, that is also abnormal. So if it is normal range 90 to 120, that is category is a G1. If it is G2, that is GFR gradually that is reduced 60 to 89, mildly decreased. G3A 45 to 59, mildly to moderately decreased. G3B 30 to 44, moderately to severely decreased. 15 to 29, severely decreased. 15 to 29. If it is less than 15, GFR is, if it is less than 15, that may be considered as kidney failure. Okay, this is the different categories that is given. So here glomerular, it is a normal image, glomerular part. So when it is in the normal condition, that may be normal filtration rate. Abnormal filtration rate, when it is takes place, when the podocytes are enlarged. When the podocytes are enlarged arterioles is also enlarged. So in this condition, more amount of filtration that is taking place. So when it is size is reduced, that the filtration is reduced. So this glomerular function test, that is mainly we are doing for two types. What are those? Renal clearance test Second one is para-aminobutyric test. Nobody mentioned about this second test, para-aminobutyric test. Okay. So renal clearance test we are using for to determine glomerular filtration rate. To determine glomerular filtration rate. Okay. So here we need to estimate blood flow also. We need to estimate renal blood flow. So that is we are using for that the second test is para-aminobutyric test. This test is we are using for renal blood flow. So if you want to know whether glomerular is functioning properly or not, that is mainly depending on the filtration and also renal blood flow. So for filtration, we are doing renal clearance test. For the blood flow, we are doing the experiment para-aminobutyric test. Okay. First one is renal clearance test. So what is renal clearance test? You can see the renal clearance of a substance is defined as volume of plasma from which a substance is completely cleared by the kidney per minute. So this is a standard definition you have to write down. A substance is completely cleared by the kidney per minute. This is the general formula. Clearance ml per minute equal to U into V by P. So what is U? Urinary concentration of the substance. V, volume of urine excreted per minute. P, plasma concentration of the substance. In that clearance test, there are three clearance tests. One is creatinine clearance, urea clearance, inulin clearance, creatinine clearance test. So creatinine that is not reabsorbed by the renal tubules. That is completely excreted out. So here that the normal males, those are having 97 to 137 ml per minute. Females are having 88 to 128 ml per minute. Okay. So in the blood, the serum creatinine level is 0.6 to 1.4 milligrams per deciliter. So these are all we need to estimate these values. If there is any abnormal, there is a problem in the glomerular part. There is no filtration. So raising serum creatinine level in blood indicates the renal dysfunction. So when it is accumulated more creatinine in the blood, that means creatinine that is not filtered into the urine. Creatinine that is accumulated in the blood only. So when the creatinine level that is raised in the blood, this maybe indicates the renal function. There is no proper filtration of the kidney. So creatinine we are estimating in the 24 hours of the urine. 24 hours. So there is a specialized procedure for collecting of the 24 hours of the urine. So then after collecting of the urine sample, so in that urine sample, we are estimating the creatinine level in that 24 hours of the urine. So for that, this is the formula U into V by P into 1.73 by this is body surface area. Okay, height by weight chart according to. This is one patient example that this is here 24 hours of urine volume is 1000 ml. 24 hours of urine creatinine that is containing 20 milligrams per deciliter. Plasma creatinine is 5 milligrams per deciliter. So here plasma creatinine that is little bit high, not little bit. Normal range is 0.6 to 1.4, but here it is 5 milligrams per deciliter in the blood. So this is very high amount. So that means that the patient height by weight is 6 feet and 190 lbs. So according to this formula, that patient is got 2 ml per minute. So 2 ml per minute, that is you can see normal range 2 ml per minute. So that is very less. So there is a problem in the kidney, very poor clearance. Next one is urea clearance. So here urea clearance with the compared to creatinine, urea is not that much of effort that gives kidney function, because creatinine that is completely eliminated from the tubules, but the urea that is not completely eliminated. There are some amount of the urea that is again reabsorbed in the tubules. Okay. First of all, we need to know what is urea. Urea is the end product of the protein metabolism. Urea is the end product of the protein metabolism. Whenever protein digestion that is taking place, if there is any high amount of protein digestion that takes place, more amount of urea that is produced. Okay. So urea clearance is also affected by several non-renal factors like protein content of the diet, infection, high fever. In these conditions, more amount of urea that is produced. Okay. So urea clearance, normally urinary output is greater than 2 ml per minute. So in the last examination, no one is mentioned about this urinary urea output. Nobody mentioned. Here we can clearly mention normal urinary urea output is greater than 2 ml per minute and also less than 2 ml per minute. We need to calculate that urinary output, that is depending on. So for urinary output, if it is greater than 2, there is a formula. If it is less than 2 ml per minute, there is another formula. We need to confirm it. Okay. So in generally, normally urinary output is greater than 2 ml per minute. Okay. That is called maximum urea clearance. That is called maximum urea clearance. That the value is 75 ml per minute. 75 ml per minute. So here, this is the formula. Maximum urea clearance per ml per minute equal to U into V by P. This is the normal. So if the urinary output is less than 2 ml per minute, if the urinary output is less than 2 ml per minute, that the calculation is different. So that is called standard urea clearance. That is called standard urea clearance. Its value is 54 ml per minute. Its value is 54 ml per minute. Okay. Here U into square root of V. Square root of V by P. I think only one student given this answer, square root of V. Okay. U into square root of V by P. So this is one example that is given. Blood urea, after collecting the blood urea, what is the normal range of blood urea value? 20 to 40 milligrams per deciliter. So here, in sometimes 15 to 40 also. So here blood urea value is 40 milligrams per deciliter. Urinary urea is 12 grams per liter, that is 1200 milligrams per liter. Okay. So volume of urine excreted per day, 24 hours of urine sample is 1500 ml. Okay. So per minute, that is 1.04 ml per minute. So if volume of urine less than 2 ml per minute, so here volume of urine, how much it is? 1.04 per ml per minute. That means it is less than 2 ml. So then we are calculating standard urea clearance. Standard urea clearance. Okay. So that standard urea clearance value is 32.4 ml per minute. So this is one example, patient example. Next one is inulin clearance test. Inulin clearance test. Inulin, you know that homopolysaccharide. It is a polymer of fructose. Inulin is the polymer of fructose, and it is used to determine renal clearance. It is not reabsorbed and not secreted. So here, like creatinine, here filtration that is takes place, secretion that is takes place, reabsorption that is not taking place for creatinine. For urea, filtration that is takes place, secretion that is taking place, reabsorption is also that is taking place. in the for the urea. For the inulin, there is no reabsorption and there is no secretion also. For inulin, there is no reabsorption and there is no secretion. So whatever inulin that is filtered in the kidney, that whole amount of the inulin that is excreted out. Okay. So method, we don't require method. Just you can remember this formula. U into V by P. Okay. C in means inulin. Okay. So normal adult, the average value is 125 ml per minute. Okay. Whenever it is reduced less than 125 ml per minute, that is glomerular problem. Okay, due to glomerular problem, if there is any glomerular functional problem, there is a chance to reduce this 125 ml per milliliter. Okay, so that is about clearance test. With the using of this clearance test, we determine glomerular functional rate. Okay, next one is para-amino heparate test. This para-amino heparate test we are using to determine renal blood flow, renal plasma flow. Okay. So para-amino heparate test. This test is performed to measure the renal blood flow. Don't forget renal blood flow. Okay. So para-amino heparate, when injected intravenously, it is completely filtered by the glomeruli. So it is completely filtered by the glomeruli and maximum secreted in tubules. So whatever amount of para-amino heparate we are inserted into the intravenously, that is completely filtered. Through that is completely filtered or completely secreted also. But here there is no reabsorption. Okay, so in that single circulation, that whole amount of the para-amino heparate that is completely eliminated. So if there is any problem in the renal blood flow, that is not completely eliminated. If there is any problem in the renal blood flow, whether it is high blood flow or low blood flow, there is a chance to elevate or reduce the para-amino heparate in the urinary sample. Okay. Next one is filtration fraction. This is the important question for the 2 marks. What is filtration fraction? Filtration fraction is a ratio between the glomerular filtration rate and also renal blood flow. Glomerular filtration rate by renal blood flow. So whatever plasma that is reached to the glomerular part, in that 20% that is filtered, 20% that is filtered, 80% that is not filtered. Okay, enters into the efferent arteriole. In that 20%, 90% of the plasma that is reabsorbed into the capillaries, So only 1% of the plasma only that is excreted out. Only 1% is that is excreted out. So filtration fraction formula is glomerular filtration rate by renal plasma flow. So that normal range is 0.16 to 0.21. 0.16 to 0.21. Filtration fraction is reduced in glomerulonephritis. It is reduced in glomerulonephritis. Glomerulonephritis means there is a problem with the glomerular part. There is no proper filtration. Next one is filtration fraction is increased in hypertension. Filtration fraction is increased in hypertension. Hypertension means high amount of blood flow to the glomerular part. So in this condition, more amount of filtration that is taking place. So this is about filtration fraction. So that is about glomerular functions. Next, we need to know about tubular function tests. Tubular, we are completed glomerular part. Next one, we need to know about that continuation of the nephron, different tubules, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule. These tubes functions whether they are working or not, we are estimating, that is called tubular function test. So in that tubules, we know that what function that is taking place, reabsorption and secretion. Reabsorption and secretion. So we are doing experiments. So about 170 liters of water are filtered through the glomeruli for 24 hours. For 24 hours, 170 liters for 24 hours. In that 170 liters, only 1.5 liter only that is excreted. Remaining 168.5 liters, those are reabsorbed into the capillaries. So that is reabsorption and secretion. Renal threshold. Renal threshold. So renal threshold, you know that it is very important for Viva question. They will ask you Viva if you got the glucose, whether it is in the blood or in the urine. They will ask you renal threshold of the glucose. So what is renal threshold? Whatever substance that is normally that is elevated with compared to normal. Okay. So here, for example, you can say renal threshold for the glucose, that is 180 milligrams per deciliter. So normally in the blood, glucose value is 70 to 110 in the fasting condition, 70 to 140 in random conditions. So 70 to 140. So 180 means it is greater than the blood value. So when the substance that is reached greater than the blood value, that is called renal threshold of the substance. So here the renal threshold of the glucose value is 180 milligrams per deciliter. So when the blood that is reached to the blood glucose that is reached to the 180 milligrams per deciliter, that renal gates are opened, then this glucose that enters into the urine. Okay, then this glucose that enters into the urine. So renal threshold of the glucose, if the blood glucose level exceeds about 180 milligrams per deciliter, complete renal tubular reabsorption does not occur, and so glucose appears in the urine. This point is called renal threshold of the glucose. So see, you can remember that renal threshold of the glucose value is 180. Okay, tubular maximum. So the maximum rate of the reabsorption or secretion of the substances by the renal tubules. So tubular maximum reabsorption of the glucose is about 350 milligrams per minute. Okay, 350 milligrams per minute. So here you need to remember that the renal threshold of the glucose value is 180 milligrams per deciliter. So tubular functions for the examination of the tubules, tubular function, urine concentration test, dilution test, urine concentration test, urine dilution test. Next one is phenyl sulfapyline excretion test, phenyl sulfapyline excretion test. So these urine concentration and dilution tests we are doing for renal tubular reabsorption. Renal tubular reabsorption. So phenyl sulfapyline excretion test we are doing for renal tubular secretion. Renal tubular secretion. Okay. So normally in our body, the water concentration that is mainly depending on the two factors. One is renal tubular reabsorption. Renal tubular reabsorption. If there is any, if there is normal tubular reabsorption, there is no water content is reduced in our body. Okay. If there is any problem in the renal tubules, there is a chance to eliminate more water and the body that is reduces water concentration. So one is renal tubular reabsorption. One is a hormone control. What is that hormone? Antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone. So here we can see whenever water is filtered through the kidney, that means in our body that water content is reduced, that is already filtered. So whenever water content in our body is reduced, immediately in our metabolic reactions, immediately that sends the signals to the hypothalamus to control those water content in our body. So whatever filtered water that has to again comes into the water, that is signals that sends to the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus immediately that sends the signals to the posterior pituitary gland. In that posterior pituitary gland, that releases antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone. Then in that antidiuretic hormone released into the blood, then that reaches to the kidney. In that kidney, in the renal tubule, that is immediately water reabsorption that is taking place. So whenever water reabsorption is taking place in our body, that comes water levels are normal. Okay. So, but in the specialized conditions like diabetes insipidus, this antidiuretic hormone action that is not sensitive in the renal tubule. So there is no action of the antidiuretic hormone. So more urine that is filtered and excreted into the urine. Okay, diabetes insipidus. So that's why in that diabetes insipidus, frequent urination that is taking place. So those patients, they have to drink more water. So this is the flow chart. In the dehydration condition, immediately we will get the symptoms like thirst. So immediately that sends the signals to the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus releasing sends the signals to the posterior pituitary gland. Their antidiuretic hormone that is produced and released into the blood. So antidiuretic hormone in the blood that is increased, then immediately that transfers to the kidney. In the kidney that reaches to the renal tubule, where water reabsorption that is taking place, less water excreted into the urine. Okay, this is dehydration automatic control. Over hydration, when we drink more water, though, so that signals are not sending to the hypothalamus, so there is no chance to release of antidiuretic hormone. So there is no action of the antidiuretic hormone on kidney. So whenever the antidiuretic hormone is not available, that is not controlled by the reabsorption of the water. So when there is no reabsorption of the water, more water that is excreted into the urine. So urine concentration test, that is mainly we are estimating in the specific gravity of the urine. So specific gravity of the urine, already you did this experiment. So this is the urinometer. With the using of this urinometer, we are estimating the specific gravity of the urine. So the normal range is 1.005 to 1.030. This is the normal range. So in that urine concentration test, there are two types of tests we are doing on the patient experiments. So here, whether we need to reduce the water given to the patient, this is water deprivation test. Whenever we are not giving water to the patients, there is greatly reduced water content of the water content in the patient's body. So this is the test, water deprivation test. Next one is urine concentration test with the antidiuretic hormone. So antidiuretic hormone we are inserted into the patient sample. So what are these? Water deprivation test, what urine concentration test. No one is mentioned about these in the examination. Urine concentration test. There are some students, they are mentioned about urine concentration test. In that urine concentration test also there are two different tests: water deprivation test, urine concentration test with the antidiuretic hormone. So this procedure you can forget about water deprivation test. So it's simply you can remember that restrict the water or fluid intake about 14 to 16 hours to the patient. So completely avoiding of the water. So when there is a completely avoiding of the water content that is greatly reduced. Okay. So the specific gravity is gradually increased. So here in this experiment, normal renal tubular specific gravity is 1.025. impaired renal tubular reabsorption, that specific gravity is greatly reduced 1.020. In mild dehydration, the specific gravity is result 1.010 due to water deprivation. There is no availability of the water. Next one is urine concentration test with the antidiuretic hormone. So you can simply remember, forget about this method and everything. In these patients, we are not deprived water. They are drinking water, but here injected antidiuretic hormone. So more amount of antidiuretic hormone present in the blood. So whenever antidiuretic hormone is present in the blood in excess, there is a more reabsorption that is taking place in the kidney tubules than concentrated urine that is produced. So here interpretation you can remember, in the normal specific gravity is greater than 1.020. Okay, impaired renal tubule, in the impaired renal tubule, that means there is no reabsorption due to impaired renal tubule. In that specific gravity, there is no change in the specific gravity of the urine. Same specific gravity there is present, because even if it is present antidiuretic hormone, there is no reabsorption that is taking place. More amount of the urine that is excreted. Water. That is, next one is urine dilution test. Next one is urine dilution test. Whenever urine diluted, when we are taking more amount of water than urine diluted. Okay, so forget about this procedure. Interpretation. In renal disease with the tubular function impairment, at least 1000 ml will be excreted. 1000 ml will be excreted even if it is impaired. That the specific gravity of the urine does not fall to 1.003. 1.003. But this test is not specific because this test is not reliable in hot climate due to loss of water through the sweating. Okay, water deprivation test. Second one is urine dilution test. Okay, this is about urine concentration and dilution test. So these are depending on the renal tubular reabsorption. So if there is any renal tubular reabsorption problem, there is a specific gravity that is reduced. Next experiment is phenol sulfaphthalin excretion test. Phenol sulfaphthalin excretion test. Okay, this test is tubular secretion. This test is tubular secretion. Secretion is properly working or not. So phenol sulfaphthalin, actually it is in red in color. So it is when we need to inject through the intravenous or intramuscular. Then after injecting, it is filtered and excreted only by the kidneys. Only by the kidneys. So whatever amount we are injected through the intravenous or intramuscular, then after we need to collect both the blood and the urine samples. We are estimating the phenol sulfaphthalin excretion. So normally 30 to 50% of the injected dye is excreted in urine during first hour. In the first hour only, that is excreted 30 to 50%. Then and completely eliminated within 2 hours. Within 2 hours, that is completely eliminated. Whatever we are injected, phenol sulfaphthalin. In the impaired renal secretion, the urinary excretion of dye is less than 25%. If there is any secretion problem, if it is less than 25% in over 2 hours, there is a problem in the renal secretion. So this is simple experiment. So that those are about glomerular function, tubular function. Next one is blood biochemistry. So we are estimating renal profile. So in that renal profile, especially blood urea nitrogen, serum creatinine, okay, serum urea, uric acid, calcium, phosphorus, electrolytes, and serum albumin. These are all Renal profile. Renal profile means blood test for renal examination. So normal serum creatinine 0.6 to 1.4. So if there is any problem in the kidney, there is a chance to elevate greater than 1.4 milligrams per deciliter of the creatinine in the blood sample. Urea is also like that. If we 20 to 40 milligrams per deciliter normal, if it is elevated more than 40 milligrams per deciliter, there is a chance to kidney failure. Okay. Next one is hypoalbuminemia. So whenever hypoalbuminemia means low amount of albumin in the blood. Okay. So whenever more albumin that is filtered through the kidney, whenever more amount of albumin that is filtered through the kidney, there is a chance to reduce albumin concentration in the blood. In normal persons, there is no albumin that is eliminated through the kidney. In the abnormal persons only kidney failure persons only albumin that is eliminated through the kidney. So in that conditions, hypoalbuminemia may be produced. In especially nephrotic syndrome, acute or chronic glomerulonephritis, nephrosclerosis, these are all conditions. Albumin in urine. Next one is hyperkalemia, hyponatremia. Hyperkalemia, high amount of potassium present in the kidney, present in the blood. Hyponatremia, more low amount of sodium that is present in the blood. So in these two conditions also we may be observed in the chronic renal failure patients. Like that, hypocalcemia, hypophosphatemia. Both calcium and phosphorus both are reduced in the blood. This is also we will see in the chronic renal failure patients. So this is about blood profile. Routine or bacteriological examination. Next one is urine. So physiological examination of the urine. So already we discussed about specific gravity, urinary output, color of the urine. Color, that means abnormal urine, bile salts, bile pigments or blood. Okay. pH of the urine increase in tubular dysfunction. Whenever tubular dysfunction that is taking place, pH of the urine is also increase. Okay. Next one is chemical examination of the urine. Chemical examination of the urine. So it is pathological conditions. Some abnormal or pathological constituents like albumin, blood, ketone bodies, glucose, all abnormal constituents of the urine. Those are present in the blood, present in the urine. These are all, you know that all these experiments you did. Chemical examination of the urine, abnormal constituents of the urine. Next one is microscopic examination. In that microscopic examination, we will examining about some casts, components, especially crystals we will see in the chronic abnormal patients. Some crystals we will observe in the microscope, under the microscope. These are also showing like wasserzones. However, you see that wasserjone crystals in the, under the microscope. These abnormal crystals also you will see in the abnormal renal failure, urine samples of the abnormal renal failures. Okay. Bacteriological examination of the urine, especially urine culture. Especially urine culture, if there is any bacterial contamination with the urine, that may sometimes some bacterial infections also that damage the renal function. Okay. So especially the dangerous bacteria E. coli. If there is any E. coli present in the urine sample, that E. coli greatly reduces the renal function. There is a chance to complete renal failure also. So that is we are examining with the urine culture. It is microbiology related topic. Completely you will know about this one in the second year, maybe in the second year. Okay. So these are all different crystals under the microscope. Uric acid, oxalates, pipperic acid, pipperic, phosphates, calcium, okay, bilirubin, cholesterol. These are all different types of crystals. Under the microscope, you will see it is mainly observed in the kidney failure patients. So that is about the topic renal function test. Read very well because of it is very important question. Whatever you are given answer, you written in the answer, you can compare your answer. It is with you, your answers. So with today's topic, you can compare your answer whether that is sufficient for 5 marks or not. You can compare. Okay. Thank you.